Hello, welcome. So this evening we wanted to get together and talk to you guys about the different types of oils that are being found online. And as you guys know, we are part of a business called HempWorx, working with CBD oil. We started in this business in January. My husband last year was in a near fatal car accident, and we were looking for something to help us replace the medications that he was using for the pain. And we came across CBD oil. And lo and behold, it ended up being something that worked amazing for him. And of course, now our entire family is using CBD oil and are receiving amazing benefits from it. And just realize the need out there. There's, so many different types of oils and the education that people need. My husband and I just found it to be something near and dear to our hearts and wanted to teach other people. Fortunately, my husband does work in the medical field and has started to work with medical practitioners with the CBD oil. And amazing, they are finding, working with their patients, the results. And it's just really, it's really just amazing. And so I have Rick here to talk about some of the labeling and the oils that are online, and he brings such valuable knowledge in the CBD world. So we're just so glad to have him as part of the team.
Well, thank you. And as Stacy said, we're going to discuss what the headline was about, which was labeling accuracy in cannabidiol extracts sold online. And this is supposed to be a Thursday night science program, so we're going to talk a little bit about science. So we're going to get a little bit deep, not very much, but we're going to talk about why there is this, first of all, gap in oversight. And that is because hemp, as we know it and as the law sees it, is a food. And so it's a supplement. And so that's why it can be shipped by HempWorx into all 50 states. But some states then contradict that with confusing CBD with THC. And so there's a lot of gray areas. We're not going to be talking about THC tonight, however, there are good studies with THC and CBD together. But what we are going to talk about is why use HempWorx, first of all, because they do very good third-party and lab analysis of our oil. And so we know what we're getting. And across the United States, out of 30 companies that were surveyed or analyzed, it was published in the Journal of American Medical, the Journal of American Medical Association, that 45% of 30 different types of oils, so 30 different companies' oils. And I'm sorry, wasn't just oils. It was oils, vapes, tinctures. So there were several different types of CBD. But what they found was about 45% were not labeled correctly. So meaning a wide variety of things, but the most popular was that it wasn't providing the amount of CBD that it stated on its label. So what you'll find, and as the study goes on to suggest, that you won't have efficacy in the manner you would if it was properly lab tested and make sure that what they claim is in it is in it. So what does that mean for you? Well, you're taking HempWorx, so you can make sure that you can feel confident that what you're getting is actually labeled correctly. Of the science behind why CBDs worked, it's part of the endocannabinoid system that we have, all of us have receptors in our bodies. And those are made up of a couple types of CB receptors. There's CB1 and CB2. I won't get into in depth how these work. We will talk about this in the future. and the different ways that they work on our body. But it is part of our immune system, believe it or not. These are immune cells, and those cells generate a lot of the function of our body. And so what CBD does is work to get that back to homeostasis. And so homeostasis, if you don't know, it means that it's back to natural level of our function of our body, our normal function of our body. So if we have low levels of something we're supposed to have higher, it'll raise it. Levels that are too high will be brought back down. And I know that's very vague, and purposefully we'll get into that in more depth in the future. All kinds of benefits from CBD. As my wife states, I was almost killed this last summer, and all kinds of broken bones and crushed bones that left pain. The result was pain. I don't know how long it's going to be there, but on CBD, I don't have it. On this CBD, I don't. I've tried other CBDs, and they don't work as well. And now, that being said, there are CBDs out there that do have lab tests that if you know somebody that talks to you about it and says, hey, they have that, a full spectrum CBD, which we'll go in to talk about the differences of why you want full spectrum, but HempWorx is full spectrum. But if they have that, I wouldn't argue with them. Okay, congratulations. Now, we'd love to have you on HempWorx, but if you've got something that's worked for you, great. Yeah. And really, CBD, it is a miracle as far as I'm concerned, medically. And with these providers that I talk to, surgeons, medical doctors, this is an option where there is a time that they have to find another option for what they're writing because they can't write opiates any longer, or they're not supposed to. So this is a great option for them. You just want to make sure you're getting what you're supposed to be getting. You can know that you have that with HempWorx. I know of a couple other companies that also have good lab testing, and so they can validate what they have, and they're full spectrum. You want a full spectrum because there's many different CBDs, receptors, and different types of CBDs, 180 different types of CBDs in the plant. And so they all have different medicinal purposes. We'll talk more about that in the future. Very interesting. But you just know that what you have with HempWorx, this company does the third-party validation, which is very important. It doesn't have the fillers that a lot of other companies have in that, which your body has to metabolize that. We have hemp oil, so it's from the same plant. I was looking at another oil today that had coconut oil and some other fillers. And maybe coconut oil is okay, but what if it's not? And if it is in there, it's taking up space that is not being filled with CBD. There's a lot of different things that you need to look at. But just know if you have a CBD and you have it lab tested, things are good. So I'm going to give it back to my wife now, and we'll talk more about what the benefits of each CBD are in the future. Just know that what we have here is validated, and you can feel safe taking it and talking to other people about it. The differences between our oil and a lot of the others are that it doesn't have the third-party validation. It doesn't have full spectrum CBD, which means it comes from the whole plant. I remember I said there was a lot of CBD in the different types of CBD in the plant. Full spectrum captures all of that and then brings that into the oil, where a lot of different companies, especially cheaper ones, the reason why they can do that is because they have a CBD isolate, meaning they isolate one of those CBDs, or maybe multiples of those CBDs. But when that happens, they don't have as good as results. I just saw we just had a reply that says coconut oil is good for brain health.
Thank you.
So that's good. That's good to know. So you have that going on in that CBD oil, but it is a filler. And so that when you need to check to see what the components are in your oil, know that you need to have CBD and CBD likeness, things that go with CBD. Thank you for that about the coconut oil.
Yes, appreciate that.
But I have seen other things that I know aren't as good for our body that they use as fillers. It's usually cheaper. So
Yeah.
that is it, honey. Basically, in the nutshell, that know that ours is tested and validated, and know that a lot of those out on the market are not.
Yeah.
I run into people all the time that say, well, I took stuff and it didn't work. So no, this is a big component of why it doesn't work. They may be an isolate, but also the other point, which you hit very well with the dosing guide, is making sure that you hit your therapeutic dose. I've run into people that aren't taking enough and chalk that up as a failure to the CBD, when really it's just because they haven't increased. And there isn't, because FDA isn't looking at it. It doesn't govern this. There isn't a lawful dosing guide. So we've come up, as Stacy's come up with a guide based upon symptoms and successes of patients and people taking it.
Yeah, so, which you can find that on my on our Facebook page. I made a copy of that, and it's just a good foundation to have, so that if you know, you're working with somebody, everybody's speaking the same language. We don't have someone saying, "Oh yeah, take about 10 or take 5." At least this way, we've got a good guideline to educate, or you know, start the client out with the CBD.
I have a question here. I just saw it came up here. You mind if I jump in?
Yeah, Karen, she says, how can CBD oil help with dementia? So yes, Karen, CBD does help with that. Honey, you want to talk about that?
And I'm not going to get into depth, but if you Google this, there is a study with CBD and dementia, and I believe it's a CBD and THC combination. And as I read more about that, there are some good qualities of having those two in combination together. This might be one of those. Stacy and I just were talking about this, how this works in the brain, as far as brain health. It works on the neurotransmitters, so the firing of neurons. And so it helps make better, with a lack of a better medical term, homeostasis. It helps that to get back to what it's supposed to operate at. So with dementia and with inflammation and those type of inflammatory type of diseases, it reduces that and allows the functioning, the proper functioning of those organs. So I know this wasn't a great explanation, but Google it. There are some, and we'll talk about that in the future too on the Thursday night call.
Yeah. And the wonderful thing about CBD is, you know, you can't overdose on it. You know, there's not really any real contraindications with any other medications. We do just say that you work with your medical provider and let them know that you are taking the CBD, and because there might be some adjustments to medications and things like that, because we're not saying that this is going to heal or, you know, anything like that, but it is important that you do work with somebody. But we're going to have some amazing testimonies so that you guys can, you know, just hear from others that are taking the CBD. And HempWorx is what I think is amazing about them is that they are very transparent about the oils that they have. And we have, you know, him and I, we've compared with some other full spectrum oils. And what we are finding out is, you know, really where the hemp is grown. So the hemp out in Colorado, that this oil that was, you know, compared apples to apples, but the only difference is that one was grown in Colorado and the other is grown in Kentucky. So maybe there's just some amazing, wonderful things that are happening in Kentucky soil that's making this oil so amazing.
Back to the medical side of this, if you do have some type of illness, or I see somebody says something about their son, their pediatrician, let them know that you are doing that they're taking CBD. And the reason why is because it's going to improve what you're doing already. Meaning if they're on other medication, it could make it work better or make it work less. The pathway of metabolism that CBD follows, I won't get into the components of that, but it follows basically the same metabolism pathway as a lot of the drugs that are on the market do. And so when they take the same path, only so much can go down the same path. And so it's either blocking one or helping the other. So just make sure your healthcare provider knows. It's not a bad thing. It might be even that they will see through whomever you're doing this with that it does improve the functions.
Lots of people are getting off of their meds. I know I just talked to a friend of mine. She is off of her anxiety, sleep. What else is she on? Anxiety and sleep and pain meds. And she's totally off everything and just just on CBD 100%. So, but I just wanted to show you guys real quick. These are, this is the bottles, the 500 bottle. And then they have the 750. And just when you get it, just put it under your tongue, 30 seconds to a minute, and you'll just kind of feel it all absorb. We love the peppermint flavor. Anything else about it? So if there's not any other questions.
If there is any questions by the medical providers, the 500 milligrams is 10 milligrams of CBD per dose, which is a full dropper. The 750 is 15 milligrams of CBD per dose. So that's good to know in case they want to know how much you're taking. They want to know how many drops. That won't tell them anything, but the milligrams will. So.
Okay. So thank you guys tonight for dialing in on our Throw It to Science Thursday. And so tomorrow, catch us. We're going to talk about Freedom Friday on opportunities to be able to make money at home and have some freedom and spend more time with your family. So thanks again. You guys have a great evening.
Thanks. Good job.